The cold night breeze, the half-hidden moon, and the senses of an assassin all whisper the same thing. Leon, the leader of the Shadows, an organization of assassins, was applauded by his master, Sir Robert Deruth, for doing a good job as the leader of the assassins. Leon has been told by his colleagues that he would be killed that night by Deruth, who happens to be his master. You have performed well as the Shadows' chief. Thanks to your works in the shadows, the family has been growing faster in power. Deruth said, commending Leon. I am just doing what should be done, Leon said as he takes a low bow before his master. Deruth asked if he ever thinks that an assassin and a member of the Shadow needs freedom. Leon answered that as assassins and members of the Shadows, they are expected to follow their master's order, and they are expected to do away with their own thoughts, feelings, or mind. Deruth said that he was glad that Leon was well versed with the rules of the Shadows. Then, why did you act on your own? Why did you undo your own brainwashing? Deruth asked, expecting an answer from the dumbfounded Leon. Leon wondered how his master got to know that he was acting on his own and that he had undo his own brainwashing. Brainwashing is a method used by the Roberts family in controlling their assassination organization called Shadow. They kidnap or buy children and make them work as assassins, doing dirty and wicked jobs for their entire lives, for the sake of Robert's family. Leon was brainwashed, but by coincidence, he freed myself from the chains of the brainwash. But now, he was surprised that his master knew that he had freed myself from the brainwash. How did you know? Leon asked, raising up his head a little. You and other assassins have two collars. The first is brainwashing and the second is, Deruth replied as he flicked his fingers and a wave of magical energy hit Leon on his chest. What is this pain? It feels like my heart has been sawed into halves, Leon said, groaning in pain. It is called the rage worm. There is an insect in your body, eating away your heart. At my command, Deruth explained. Leon was angry when he got to know that they were been fed with rage worms, even after been brainwashed. He was annoyed with the fact that his master only pretends to be a fair and righteous man. Deruth explained that every man wears a mask, only that his own mask appeared to be thicker than that of the others. He said that Leon had to die, since he had undone his brainwashing. Leon was kidnapped many years ago. He was raised as an assassin and a hunting dog for the Roberts family. As the head of the Shadow, he lived without emotions, wills, or thoughts of his own. But one day, he coincidentally learned a breathing technique called Fire's Ring. The Fire's Ring technique was a divine skill that belongs to the continent's best and legendary swordsman. Through the Fire Ring's technique, Leon was able to escape the brainwashing. He thought that he had finally gotten the freedom he dreamt of, but he was met with death instead of freedom. What kind of sin did I commit that I have to die such a meaningless death like this? I can't die like this, Leon soliloquized as he groaned in pain. Leon saw that despite his determination to live, he could only manage to live for a few seconds. He knew that he was going to die very soon, but he is determined to avenge himself of his imminent death by taking off his master's arm, or at least inflicting an injury on his master. He stood up to the amazement of Deruth, his master. He summoned courage, and he attacked Deruth. He was able to inflict an injury on one of his master's hand. Deruth was surprised to see that Leon, despite being attacked by the rage worms, could gather some strength and attack him. It has been a long time since Deruth had sustained an injury, not to talk of the injury been inflicted on him by a dying and helpless Leon. He told some of his assassins to dispose the body of their leader. Deruth is considered as one of the strongest in martial arts on the continent. He is strong and I am weak. There is nothing I can do, Leon thought to himself as he was been carried away by the assassins. He regrets that he had to live the life of a hunting dog. He had been manipulated and humiliated while he was alive. He also regrets that he couldn't complete the Fire's Ring technique. He doesn't care whether it will be a god or devil that will come to intervene in his situation. All he wants to is just vengeance. Leon gave up the ghost, a status window appeared, and he was reincarnated. He was reincarnated as a woman's child. With the memories of his past life as an assassin, he had slept for 100 days. The woman whose name was Sylvia carried the young Leon in her hands. She called him Sonny. Sylvia is from a royal family. She is waiting for the patriarch, who is her father, to visit them and give little Leon a wonderful name. Leon had been reincarnated into a wealthy, pretty renowned family. He had been reborn into a powerful family. The rage and the desire for vengeance remain very prominent in the mind of the little Leon. The little Leon still remembered that he had not complete the fire's ring technique. He knew that he had to be patient, as he doesn't have a clue about his present situation. A maid ran towards the woman and called her name. She told her that the patriarch is coming. The patriarch is Lady Sylvia's father. The patriarch arrived at the grand mansion, where Lady Sylvia and the little Leon lived. He was a man with a golden blonde hair and a flame-like red eye. He has the aura of an ice. He is Glenn Zeekhart, the Northern King of Annihilation. "Would you like to hold him in your hands?" Lady Sylvia asked her father. King Glenn collects little Leon from the hands of Lady Sylvia, and he wrapped his own hands around the baby boy. From today onwards, this child's name will be Leon. Like its meaning suggests, live like a shadow, as if you're there, but not there, King Glenn declared. This was exactly the same name that little Leon was given in his past life. Little Leon was happy to always have Lady Sylvia, his new mom, by his side, though he wasn't able to use his magical powers or do anything. But he was glad that he was able to sleep in a separate crib. While in this crib, with the aid of the memories he had in his past life, little Leon tried to practice fire's ring malleability. The continent normal training method uses breathing. In this way, nature's mana is absorbed and it gathers aura in your energy core. But Leon's fire's ring coincidentally make use of a different path. Just like when a mage creates mana's circle, it shapes the heart's ring, grows stamina and physique, increase mental prowess and mana sensitivity. It is the best training technique with the perfect conditions. In order to become one of the best swordsmen, Leon has to use the fire's ring to grow his mentality and body. He also had to make the Zeekhart's swordsmanship mine. Little Leon could sense that his body's mana circuit was filled with freezing energy. 9 places in his body's mana circuit are blocked. He realized that he is going to die if his body's circuits got blocked by the cold. He decides to use the fire's ring in solving his problem. At the same time, he thought that throwing away the pure cold energy is a waste. He thought that he could fuse the cold energy with the fire's flow and circulate it. Little Leon got tired of the exercise and he slept off. The next morning, Leon is seen crawling towards his mother, Lady Sylvia. "My Leon is so good. Let's crawl a little more," Lady Sylvia said happily. "It's tiring playing with you. I have the mind of an adult. Pretending to act like a baby makes me want to kill myself," Leon thought within himself. Lady Sylvia carried little Leon and sang a lullaby to him. Leon thought to himself that enduring the cold energy would be better than for him to have the mind of an adult and be acting like a little child. The Saint of Rags interrupted their mother-to-child's play. Lady Sylvia welcomes the Saint, who said that he came to visit her and her newborn baby. The Saint of Rags possessed divine powers and medical techniques that can reach the ends of the world. Although he is the most famous physician in the continent, but he can't be seen because of his wanderlust. The saint commented that Lady Sylvia had a cute baby that resembles her mom by having a red eye and blonde hair. Then he holds little Leon up in the air. The saint asked for baby Leon's name. He was told that the name of the child is Leon. The saint was surprised that a king could wish to call his grandson by the name Leon, which means shadow. He wondered what could have been on the king's mind that could have made him to name his son Shadow. The saint decides to take a look at little Leon. He noticed that Leon had a bitter cold curse and his mana energies are being blocked by the ice energy. The saint advised that Leon needs to be treated urgently if Lady Sylvia wants him to live for a long time. Lady Sylvia couldn't believe her ears. She thought that the saint was lying. The saint offered to give her some prescription, but a maid barged in and told the saint that the patriarch is looking for him and that she was asked to escort him. The saint told the maid that he will have to finish a conversation before he leaves, but the maid said that the patriarch's demand is urgent. Then the saint followed the maid. Lady Sylvia vowed to do all that she could do to make Leon get better. Lady Sylvia barged into the royal courtroom, where King Zeekhart, the patriarch, and the saint were having their discussion. The maids tried to stop her, but she pulled them aside and walked towards the patriarch and the saint. "What is the reason for your rudeness, to have shown this unsightly behavior?" the patriarch asked, looking angry. "I beg you, please save Leon," Lady Sylvia said as she kneels and bow lowly before the patriarch and the saint. Lady Sylvia begs that the patriarch should help in saving Leon's life. She said the child is her everything. The patriarch replied that Leon shows how difficult it is to live as a martial artist. He said that he see no reason why he had to save the life of a child who does not contribute to the family. "He is your grandson, father," Lady Sylvia said. "The grandson you brought home after leaving the family behind," the patriarch replied. The patriarch said that all he could do for Leon is to give him the Zeekhart name. He said that Lady Sylvia should be grateful for that. The patriarch told the royal guards to drag his own daughter out of the royal courtroom. "Father, please, I am begging you, please save Leon," she said, crying as she was being dragged out by the royal guards. "You stubborn bastard, is been honest that hard? What are you doing after calling me here to look at your grandson's condition?" the saint asked the patriarch. "Shut up and tell me the details," the patriarch replied as he takes a cup of tea. The saint explained that 9 of Leon's mana circuits are blocked by cold air. He warns that the older he becomes, the more dangerous his condition will become. The saint said that the patriarch's aura had helped to push out the cold air and that Leon will be fine for a while. The saint also said that Leon's chance of being a martial artist is so slim. The patriarch replied that he is fine with that. The saint asked for the reason why the patriarch gave the name Leon to his grandson. Since he knew that the name literally means shadow, he said that the patriarch could have given him some other nice names. The patriarch said that the name Leon has another meaning other than shadow. He said that Leon had another meaning 1,000 years ago. Lady Sylvia gave the medicine she received from the Saint of Rags to the little Leon. She was surprised to see that little Leon endured and ate the bitter medicine. Her maid said that though the medicine will be bitter for any child, she guessed that little Leon took the medicine because he understood his mom's intentions. Little Leon trained for 2 years while taking the medicine. Thanks to the medicine, he was able to make the Ring of Fire in no time. He achieved a 1-star Ring of Fire in 2 years. After playing with Lady Sylvia and Helen, the maid, in the morning, little Leon trains during the nap time and during the midnight till he is now a 5-year-old boy. Until he achieved the 2-star Ring of Fire. At this level, the flames revolves in a cross formation and his mana sense got more active. A maid entered Leon's room and was surprised to see that he had woken up so early in the morning. She asked if she could wash some of his clothes. Leon replied that the maid is permitted to take his clothes. Leon was relieved that the maid could not see his status window. Messages started popping up from the status when he achieved the 2-star Ring of Fire. Leon was bothered that even though he achieved the 2-star Ring of Fire, the bitter cold curse and the low stamina remains. Leon was grateful that he took the fire attribute medicine. He realized that it would have been very hard for him to improve in his trainings. He could also remember that his mother, Lady Sylvia and Helen, their maid and everyone that was close to him had been checking whether he was comfortable or not. Whenever he is hurting anywhere, he was always taken care of like a prince with a lot of influence. Leon sensed that he still had a lot of time, even as a 5-year-old boy. The bitter cold curse and the low stamina issue were the main reason why Leon gets tired easily whenever he walks a little bit. In his past life, as the greatest assassin, he had started learning the greatest malleability technique called the Ring of Fire. He understood that once he completes the Ring of Fire, based on the experiences he had from his past life, those weaknesses would be gone. And once he learnt the Zeekhart swordsmanship, he will be able to avenge himself of his untimely death. While he was in his past life, he knew that he had to be patient as he understands that his enemy, Daruth, is one of the strongest martial artists in the continent. He believes that even though the process may be slow, he needs to gain power and accomplish his mission of vengeance. Whenever the opportunity arises, Leon wants to start training, but he was interrupted by his mother, who told him that they would be going to a place that she had already disclosed to him the previous day. "Let's change and get ready to go to the main building," Lady Sylvia said. The powers that maintains the balances of the continent are 6 emperors and 5 demons. Out of all this, Leon was reincarnated in the Zeegard family, which is the family that belongs to one of the 6 emperors. The 6 emperors demonstrate good influence, while the 5 demons threaten the peace of the continent. There are several other powers outside of those powers as well, and there is a judgment ceremony where one gets to see if those powers are good or bad. It is another time for the Zeegard judgment ceremony. It is happening for the first time in a new year. I heard that someone outside the direct line will be participating in the judgment ceremony, and I heard that the Lord Charon's 4th son will be participating, and I heard from Sylvia, somebody from the royal family said. Lady Sylvia was seen as an outcast among the members of the royal family. Members of the royal family whispered among themselves that Lady Sylvia's child is an outcast. They said that he inherits the blood of a loser, and he looks sick. They wondered how an outcast would ever had the opportunity to participate in the judgment ceremony. They don't like to see both Lady Sylvia and Leon. They thought that their attendance make the standard drop. Mother and child seems to be unbothered as they walked amidst hate speech and bad talks directed to them from the members of the direct line of the royal family. Shameless Sylvia, they echoed. It's okay, Leon, just look at Mom, she said, turning to the young Leon, who seems to be curious about what the people from the royal family were saying about him and his mom. The patriarch enters, and he sat on his throne, having made sure that everyone in the royal family is present. The judgment sword appears and the judgment ceremony began. Lady Sylvia tells Leon to follow her. He doesn't have much expectations. He realized that he needs to find out the manha's attribute that suit his body and the type of attribute that he should cultivate. You saw the other kids do it, right? You need to do the same exact thing, Lady Sylvia said to Leon. I got it, Leon replied. Then he went to stand right in front of the judgment sword. Leon saw demons in golden light flames, and in front of him, he saw a swordsman raising up his sword and holding it with both hands. Then his manha gets activated. Members of the royal family mocked him as they saw that the light of Leon's manha was just able to reach a low point. They start to make jest of him. They said he had no quality and his manha is that of a powerless wight. I guess the god of combat doesn't watch over a runaway child, someone said. It's okay, you did well, Leon, Lady Sylvia said, smiling as she pats Leon. Is he really a descendant of the Zeegards? I didn't have high expectations, but this is just too much. Did they really have to come here and face such humiliation? Sylvia has guts. I guess the only thing he inherits from the patriarch is his blonde hair and red eyes. The other members of the royal family said all these things as they make jest of Lady Sylvia and her son. Enough, it's too loud in here. The judgment ceremony is over. Leave everyone, the patriarch commanded. The patriarch wondered how Leon's manha level could be so low, though he didn't have much expectations, but he didn't expect Leon's manha to be so low. The patriarch moves towards the judgment sword. He could see the stone sword light shining like the golden light of the sun. The first Zeegard patriarch's aura displayed transcendental firepower that could even melt the flames of the demonic realm. Golden manha and golden flames are one-time occurrence throughout the history of the Zeegard. A manha of dense golden light with blindly beautiful and radiantly shiny flames. Leon, what in the world? The patriarch asked a rhetorical question. Leon plans to reach the 3-star ring of fire. 7 years had already passed since his first judgment ceremony. Now he is a 21-year-old. It has been 7 years after the judgment ceremony. With consistent trainings, Leon is very close to becoming a 3 fires ring achiever. Leon could have had a quicker progress if he had been able to deal with the cold. But luckily his tolerance for water attributes increased to the 2-star level, so the coldness in his body disappeared. It is still hard for him to move around, but he had gotten much better than before. He thought that he could start the physical training also. Lady Sylvia came to remind Leon that he had to prepare for the judgment ceremony. Leon remembered that he will have to meet the annoying people from the royal family, who spoke cruel words, mocked him and his mom, Lady Sylvia. The judgment ceremony was so brief, it ended earlier than expected. Leon Zeekart, I am sure you have received orders to attend basic trainings. Why have you not sent a response for an entire month? The Patriarch asked, looking towards Leon's direction. Leon was surprised that the Patriarch was talking about him attending a basic training. While he was thinking of what to say, Lady Sylvia told the Patriarch that Leon is different from the other children because he had too much cold energy in his body, which may make it difficult for him to endure the training. The Patriarch refused to exempt Leon from the basic training. He believes that Leon is expected to give his best and get trained. Lady Sylvia said that she cannot accept her father's decision. She asked the Patriarch to at least give her and Leon a little bit of time. Then you will have to leave the family again with that child. On this land, you must live as a Zeekart. If you don't want to live like a Zeekart, then leave right now. The Patriarch replied sternly. The royal family members continue to insult Lady Sylvia. They say among themselves that she looks so pathetic. Leon got to know why her mother, Lady Sylvia, had been treated so poorly. Lady Sylvia had learned martial arts, but she has no aura. After breaking her own energy core and mana circuit, she left the family to marry Leon's father. But Leon's father died during her pregnancy. This made her to come back home. As a direct lineage, who had left on her own and came back crawling, was treated poorly, just as the people believed. Leon could not watch the Patriarch humiliate his mom. He walked up to the Patriarch amidst calls and shouts from his mom and maid, who were telling him to come back. Leon stood bodily before the Patriarch, and he said that he will start attending the training the next month, just as he was told to do. The Martial Hall Master told him that even though it is going to be a basic training, it is not something Leon could endure as someone who had his mana circuits blocked by cold energy. He advised him to give up on the training. Leon replied that he will live up to the Zeekart name by attending the training. Living up to the Zeekart name, do you know the kind of heavy weights that those words carried? The Patriarch said as he raised up from the throne, unleashing his aura. Leon looked like his heart had been crushed. He wondered why the mere look of a Patriarch do so much harm to him. Leon recognized that the Patriarch was more powerful than the enemy he had in his past life. Patriarch, Leon is still a young child. He doesn't know what he has said, Lady Sylvia said apologetically. The Martial Hall Master told the Patriarch to withdraw his anger and stop unleashing his aura against the young Leon, but the Patriarch would not listen to him. Lady Sylvia stayed close to Leon, and she tries to shed him from the Patriarch's aura. She pleaded with her father to stop unleashing his aura. Leon remembered that he had been an assassin in his past life. He lived in the shadows and was always closer to death than life and had never stepped out of the darkness. But now, he is no longer Leon the assassin, but Leon Zeekart. He had to bring his mom back to her original position. Leon said that since he was raised in a separate building of the residence, he would like to know how powerful and high in societal rank the Zeekart family could be. He hoped to achieve this through the trainings. Leon had a change of mind. He wants to protect his mom and help her to regain her rightful position. He wants to make the people that are precious to him happy. Do you mean that you want to judge Zeekart's standard through training? The Patriarch asked. That is the only choice that I have, Leon replied. The Patriarch said he will honor Leon's request and inform the instructor of his intention to attend the basic training. Leon was the best assassin in his past life. Having learned the Fire's Ring and a legend of the continent, he sensed that he could be a prominent figure in the Zeekart family if he could utilize both abilities. Karun Zeekart, the intermediate Martial Hall Master, was asking questions about Leon's health conditions from his servant. The servant told him that many maids were there when the Patriarch and the Saint of Rags were discussing about Leon's health. Karun was surprised to see that Leon could survive the Patriarch's aura, despite the fact that he was too weak to move and even had a bad health condition. He thought that it may be that the talented Lady Sylvia could have given some protective powers to Leon. He ordered his servant to put a maid in Lady Sylvia and Leon's residence. The maid is to report everything that goes on in the building. The Patriarch went to the Zeekart 5th Training Hall. He met Limer Diaz, a brilliant swordsman and the head instructor of the Martial Hall. He often pretends to be asleep. The patriarch discovered the tricks of Limer, and he asked him to stop pretending to be asleep and wake up. He commends the patriarch for his discovering his sleeping techniques. The patriarch asked Limer that why would he, as the head instructor, be resting, while the other instructors are working hard. He explained that they're just following his orders. He said that he works with his head, while the instructors work with their bodies. The patriarch admits that the head of the instructor has not changed even after 50 years. Limer answered that people don't change easily. He asked the patriarch if his reason for being in the 5th training hall was because of his youngest grandson. Limer said that Lady Sylvia came to the training hall and pleaded with him that he should make sure that Leon does not get injured. Limer said that the patriarch would be wasting his time if he had come to make the same request. Limer reminds the patriarch that he had once declared that he won't interfere with the 5th training hall. Limer said that he wouldn't exempt Leon from any rigorous training activities, even though he knew that Leon is the patriarch's youngest grandson. The patriarch told him to do as he had wished. He told him not to lessen the intensity of the training. He said that he doesn't want Leon to be a weakling. "Oh wow, you must have loved your grandson more than I thought. You are projecting the love you couldn't give to Sylvia to that child," Limer said, smiling. "If not that you are my veteran friend, your head would have been rolling on the floor right now," the patriarch replied sternly. The patriarch instructs Limer not to go easy with Leon or anyone. He told him to fail those who are unworthy, so that the worthy ones will be able to receive the trainings. "Then, I will do as I wish," Limer said. The patriarch told him to do whatever he wants. Then he leaves the training hall. Leon is now a 3-star level achiever. His sense had become more active. His mind becomes more alert and clearer than before, and he is getting more flexible as his magical status window helps to quicken the growth process. The Z-Cart's training is known for its difficulty. Being a 3-star level achiever is Leon's first step towards surviving the training process. However, he needs to build a good foundation in martial arts in order to stand tall and survive. He needs to excel above everyone else so that all the guys that mocked him will be able to keep their mouth shut. After that, he would avenge himself and kill the enemy in his past life. Robert Deruth, the Heavenly Sword Saint. He was thinking about all these things when Lady Sylvia entered his room. She informed him that he would be going to the training hall the next day. Lady Sylvia said she wants to have a mother-to-child discussion with Leon. She told him that she wants him to attend the basic training school, but she also wants him to wait for a year before attending the training school. Lady Sylvia told him that he is to be careful not to express his feelings whenever he is feeling bad. She said she wished that he could postpone his decision to attend the basic training school for just a year. Leon replied that he could not stand it whenever someone of the direct and the indirect bloodlines make disgusting face in front of him and Lady Sylvia. He said that he couldn't stand all the insults directed at he and Lady Sylvia. Leon believes that he won't receive such ill treatment anymore if he could perform very well in training. Lady Sylvia replied that she knew that the reason why they lived separate and the reason why people spoke bad things about them might look strange to Leon. She said she coincidentally fell in love with Leon's father during a mission, but she finds it difficult to be with him since he was just a normal knight, so she had to shut down her energy core, mana circuits, and then leave the family to be with the love of her life. She said that Leon had an older sister who was 2 years older than him. She said they were living a peaceful life until the Eden executives ambushed them. She said that Leon's father wasn't that powerful and she was pregnant with baby Leon in her belly at that time. There was nothing they could do against them. Thankfully, Leon's father hired some guards without Sylvia knowing about it. The guards were far from them, so they arrived late, but by then Leon's father and sister had died already. Lady Sylvia was confused and she didn't know what to do, so she decides to return to the family. She said that her return to the family after a long time made the royal family to treat her like a sinner, and she can't really say anything against it. She said people thought that she was a selfish person who threw away responsibilities in the name of love and coming back and crawling to be saved. Leon understood why the family treats her mom so badly. However, he remembered that she was the first person who showed affection and gave him a new life. Leon reminds himself that Lady Sylvia is a mother that he had in both phases of his life. Leon asked if his mother would like to go back to her former days of living and working for the family. She said that she was satisfied with her past and present life. Leon plans to help his mother regain her position. After that, he thought he would continue to pursue his revenge mission. He decides to check the malleability of the Ring of Fire before he goes to sleep. He was able to summon the Rage Spirit, who promised to help him in the accomplishment of his revenge mission. Rayon Zeegart, often viewed as an outsider within the Zeegart family, is training alone when Runan Sleon quietly approaches him. She steps up beside him and begins observing him intently, her gaze calm and unwavering. Rayon, curious yet puzzled by her silent presence, wonders why she's there. After a brief silence, Runan decides to sit down and begins her own training routine alongside him, mirroring his focused energy. After some time, she realizes it wasn't her imagination. Being near Rayon, with his cool and calming scent, makes her feel lighter and able to lift more than usual. After a while, Rayon's curiosity gets the better of him, and he glances over, asking if she has something she wants to say. Runan simply says no, while reasoning that she should stay around him a little longer. Meanwhile, a group of other students, including Burin Zeegart, a direct member of the Zeegart family, notice the unlikely duo training together. The sight of Runan, who rarely interacts with others, calmly working out beside Rayon surprises them. They mutter among themselves, questioning what good could possibly come from associating with someone like Rayon. Burin, particularly annoyed by the sight, dismisses Rayon's rigorous training as pointless, calling it repetitive and a waste of time. Burin tells the others that Rayon is so weak he has to rely on basic exercises just to keep up. Even with all that effort, Burin says, Rayon is still nowhere near their level. He then advises his friends to concentrate on improving their swordsmanship, especially since they don't know what the next test will involve. Building strength through real skills, he says, will be more useful than Rayon's repetitive training. After Burin and the others leave, a student named Dorian, who isn't part of the Zeegart family, walks over to Rayon. Introducing himself, Dorian politely asks if he can train nearby, explaining he's trying to learn the right posture. Rayon nods, saying he doesn't mind. Grateful, Dorian hands Rayon a cookie as a small thank you. Rayon is about to decline the cookie when he notices Runan eyeing it with interest. Without a second thought, he hands it to her instead. Runan accepts it without hesitation and quietly munches on the treat. With that, the three of them settle into training, their silent companionship growing as they continue their exercises together. Day by day, Rayon, Runan, and Dorian stick to their basic routines, while Burin and his friends focus on refining their swordsmanship. This simple routine carries on for 6 months. One day, during a morning run, Rayon reflects on how hard he's pushed himself, giving everything he has in each session. As he glances around, he realizes that the trainees who used to outrun him are no longer in sight. Now, only 2 people remain ahead of him, Burin and Runan. The day of the test finally arrives, and the training grounds buzz with anticipation as all the guardians, including Rayon's mother, Sylvia, gather to watch. Among them stands Wrath, the ghostly beast bound to Rayon, who appears with a sly grin, reminding Rayon of their bet. If Rayon emerges as the top trainee after this test, Wrath will grant him a skill, but if he doesn't, Wrath will gain control over Rayon's body. Rayon shrugs, unbothered, and tells Wrath that the outcome is still uncertain, brushing off his taunts. While mentally preparing himself, Rayon notices Dorian sitting on the ground, visibly shaking. Concerned, he asks what's wrong. Dorian admits that his nerves got the better of him, and he couldn't get a wink of sleep the night before. Rayon stares at him, bewildered by his friend's anxiousness, when Runan steps forward and wordlessly offers Rayon a cookie. He declines it, thinking for a moment about how he always seems to end up with such odd friends. Sylvia, Rayon's mother, glows with pride as she looks over to Helen, their loyal maid, and eagerly remarks on how Rayon now stands tall and self-assured. Her eyes sparkle as she speaks, clearly impressed by her son's transformation. Helen, who has watched Rayon grow over the years, nods in agreement, adding with a warm smile that Rayon has come a long way. She reminds Sylvia that he has spent the last 6 months in relentless training, pushing himself to his limits and, along the way, even managed to form close friendships. Helen isn't surprised by this, explaining that Rayon has always had a warm and kind nature. Ever since he was a young child, he's shown thoughtfulness and a natural ability to connect with others. Not long after, an unexpected stir runs through the crowd gathered for the test. People whisper and exchange curious glances as the Sieghart family's patriarch, Glenn Sieghart himself, makes a rare appearance to observe the event. His arrival is a shock to everyone present, as he has never attended this particular event before. Limer, the head instructor of the training hall, asks Glenn what brought him here today, intrigued to know what could have piqued the interest of the revered patriarch. Glenn responds with a calm and steady tone, remarking that this event will greatly influence the future of their family, so he finds it odd that his presence would be considered unusual. Limer smiles, assuring Glenn that he didn't mean it that way. Turning his attention to the assembled crowd, Limer then raises his voice, saying since the patriarch is there is no time to waste, so they will proceed with the test immediately, and he tells them that he will soon explain the details of the challenge they are about to face. In a sudden display of his intense power, Limer releases a powerful aura, creating a heavy, overwhelming pressure that sweeps across the area. The sheer force of it causes the students to feel a deep sense of fear, some even struggling to stay on their feet as the atmosphere grows heavier. As the students brace themselves, Limer announces that the test will be straightforward. They simply need to endure his oppressive aura and make it to the other side of the training field. This, he declares, is the trial he has prepared for them, a test of their resilience and determination. Limer explains to the students that aura is a fundamental aspect of a martial artist, and the test will measure their true value as martial artists. One of the guardians questions this choice of test, pointing out that the children have only recently begun to learn about aura. Other guardians agree, saying that some of the students haven't even started aura training yet, making this test seem unfair. Limer sighs and clarifies that what they are facing is more than just a display of aura. A true aura burst is a reflection of the strength of one's soul, a depth that a martial artist builds over time. This burst isn't dependent solely on visible aura, but serves as undeniable proof of someone's growth as a martial artist. It's a level of essence that can surface even in those who haven't yet fully awakened their aura abilities. Despite Limer's explanation, many of the guardians remain unconvinced, finding his words hard to understand. At this point, Glenn Sieghart speaks up, supporting Limer's perspective. He states that Limer isn't wrong, even if some students haven't formally learned to control their aura. Every person possesses their own unique aura burst, which is shaped by the life they've lived. He adds that the intensity of training and personal experiences can lead even someone with a modest aura to produce a powerful aura burst. Limer grins and says that since no one has any objections, the test will begin. He then calls Runnin to step forward. As she approaches, Limer explains that the level of aura burst he will use is one she should be able to withstand if she has truly given her best in training. The objective is simple. She must push through his aura and touch him to pass. With a sudden surge, Limer releases his powerful aura burst, and Runnin shivers under its intensity. He warns her that using aura to defend herself will lead to an automatic failure. Instead, she must rely on the mental strength she has built through her training. Runnin clenches her teeth, focusing, and steadily moves forward, step by step. Despite the intense pressure, she pushes through and finally reaches Limer, lightly touching his arm. Exhausted and drenched in sweat, she drops to her knees. Limer, however, praises her efforts, acknowledging the hard work she has clearly put into her training, and encourages her to keep it up. Next, Limer calls out Dorian's name, surprising the young boy, who hesitantly asks how the order is being decided. Limer simply replies that he chooses as he pleases. Nervous, Dorian steps forward, reminding Limer that he's known for being weak-willed. But Limer firmly tells him that if he can't handle this, he'll fail. As Limer's aura surrounds Dorian, Rayon observes closely and notices that Limer has adjusted the intensity of his aura burst to suit each student's unique level and progress. Rayon realizes that Limer has been carefully watching and evaluating each child's growth all along. Though overwhelmed at first, Dorian finally manages to press on and reach out, touching Limer's leg. Limer congratulates him, noting that while Dorian has the skills, he lacks confidence. He encourages him to have more faith in himself and his abilities. The test continues smoothly until it's Burin's turn. As he steps forward, Limer releases his aura, and Burin immediately feels its intense pressure. Shielding his face, he wonders if this is what the others endured, realizing it feels far different than just watching from the sidelines. Overwhelmed, Burin collapses to the ground, unable to move his feet. Limer addresses him directly, saying that Burin's talent is extraordinary and few can match it. However, Limer criticizes Burin for wasting time by letting others follow him around instead of focusing on his own growth. Limer questions Burin's decision to focus solely on swordsmanship, pointing out that without a clear sense of purpose, this training is meaningless. He explains that Burin should have prioritized building his mentality and physical strength instead of just practicing sword techniques. As Burin struggles to rise, Limer scolds him for relying on aura each time he feels stuck, warning that if he uses it now, he'll automatically fail the test. Feeling the weight of Limer's words, Burin recalls the harsh memory of his father's cold gaze on the day he disowned his brother. The thought of facing that same rejection fuels him. He realizes that if he fails, he too might be abandoned. This determination gives him the strength to press on, and he finally manages to touch Limer, passing the test. Limer acknowledges his effort but reminds him that he's still only 12 and should focus on training the fundamentals rather than pretending to be an adult. Finally, it's Rayon's turn. As he steps forward, Limer tells him to be prepared since he's the last student to be tested. Rayon nods confidently, and Limer unleashes a massive aura burst that even startles Sylvia and surprises Glenn. Despite the overwhelming pressure, Rayon remains calm and asks if this is truly his test. Limer, smiling, replies that Rayon's potential far exceeds that of Burin or Runnin, and he encourages Rayon to endure the aura burst and show his true strength. Rayon steps forward, reflecting that true strength lies within the soul, not just in physical form. He acknowledges that within him exists not only the essence of Rayon Zeekhart, but also the skills and resilience of Rayon the Assassin. Drawing on this dual identity, he is able to move steadily through Limer's intense aura, surprising Limer, who marvels at how Rayon can endure it so effortlessly. The Guardians watching from the sidelines are equally stunned, exchanging astonished glances as Rayon finally reaches Limer. Calmly, he touches Limer and asks if the test is complete. The other students are equally stunned, staring at Rayon in disbelief. They wonder how someone who was once a frail, sickly child and hasn't even started formal aura training could accomplish such a feat. Even Limer, astonished, asks Rayon what he truly is. Rayon simply responds that he's the same Rayon Limer has been observing for the past 6 months. Limer, still processing what he just witnessed, admits that he unleashed an aura burst far beyond Rayon's level, intending to play a harmless prank, assuming Rayon wouldn't be able to withstand it. He never imagined Rayon would actually make it through. Rayon remains silent, meeting Limer's gaze with a calm expression. Limer then addresses everyone, announcing that the test is officially over and it's time to reveal the top trainee. The students and Guardians watch with bated breath, eagerly waiting for the result. With a grin, Limer proclaims that the top trainee of the 5th training hall is Rayon Zeekhart. Sylvia and Helen, Rayon's mother and maid, can hardly contain their joy, overjoyed that Rayon has achieved this honor. Meanwhile, the other Guardians exchange uneasy glances, uncertain how to respond, having all witnessed Rayon's incredible feat of breaking through Limer's aura burst. Burin then shouts loudly that he doesn't accept Rayon being chosen as the top trainee, declaring that it's unfair. Limer, curious, asks him what he means by this. Burin responds by saying that Rayon has lower stamina, strength, and intelligence than he does, so he can't accept that someone like Rayon could become the top trainee. Burin goes on to say he's certain Rayon must have used some sort of trick to pass the test. A few of the Guardians nod in agreement with Burin, questioning how Rayon was even able to walk through the aura, especially while under the effects of the bitter cold curse. Some of them even suggest it might be a setup, hinting that Limer could be in on it. Facing Rayon directly, Burin declares that as martial artists of the Zeegart family, they should select the top trainee through a proper duel, rather than relying on the test results. Limer, with a smile, remarks that Burin must really want the top trainee title. He then turns to Glenn and asks for his opinion on how they should proceed. Glenn, noticing the crowd's dissatisfaction, looks at Rayon and asks if he's willing to have a duel with Burin, given that it seems many people are unhappy with the current outcome. To everyone's surprise, Rayon calmly declines. He explains that the test is over and the results are final, so he sees no reason to fight in a duel without a reward involved. He then turns to Burin and points out that Burin is always talking about honor and family lineage, but he doesn't expect him to be in such complete denial over the test's outcome. Glenn listens and then makes a decision, proposing that they settle the matter with a duel for the top trainee position, with a bronze plaque as the prize. This catches Rayon's attention since the bronze, silver, and gold plaques are given to those who achieve notable accomplishments, with rewards that vary depending on the plaque's material. Knowing that Glenn, the patriarch, would be awarding the plaque, Rayon feels confident that he could earn some valuable rewards. Now interested, he agrees to duel Burin, feeling motivated by the possibility of receiving a bronze plaque from Glenn himself. Glenn announces that they should start the duel, explaining the rules. It will be a single round, and they're not allowed to use weapons or aura, only their bodies. With that, the duel begins, and Burin charges at Rayon, throwing a series of punches and kicks. Rayon, however, skillfully dodges every attack with ease. Frustrated, Burin decides to switch tactics, planning to use the righteous tiger fist technique his father taught him. Burin reasons that he's not breaking any rules since Glenn didn't explicitly ban fist techniques. As Burin launches his righteous tiger fist at Rayon, some students cheer him on, convinced that Rayon won't be able to counter Burin's powerful moves. Burin presses forward, determined to secure the top trainee spot, unwilling to let someone from an indirect lineage like Rayon take it from him. As he fights, memories of his father, Karun, flash in his mind. He recalls a harsh moment when Karun disowned his older brother, calling him a weakling and telling Burin that he should only concern himself with proving his own strength. Karun's final words, urging him not to disappoint him, echo in Burin's mind, fueling his determination. Back in the duel, Burin is aware that his father is watching him, and he feels an intense need to prove himself. Meanwhile, Rayon is noticing something surprising. He can clearly see the movement of Burin's fists, the flow of his technique, and the pattern of his attacks. Taking a step back, Rayon pauses, causing Burin to ask if he's planning to give up. As Burin moves in to strike, Rayon prepares himself as well, and their fists collide in a powerful clash. Rayon then counters, using the very righteous tiger fist technique that Burin had been using, and lands a solid punch on Burin, sending him to the ground and leaving the entire audience stunned. As Burin struggles to catch his breath, he looks up at Rayon in disbelief and asks how he managed to use the righteous tiger fist technique. Rayon simply replies that Burin had demonstrated it for him, so he just copied it, the Guardians murmuring in amazement and exchanging curious glances, speculating that Rayon must have somehow learned the advanced technique in secret. Even Limer, who has seen countless students over the years, is momentarily stunned, recognizing that Rayon's skill is indeed authentic. He observes how Rayon expertly countered Burin's powerful righteous tiger fist by spinning in the opposite direction, perfectly neutralizing the force of the attack. Limer reflects on the significance of what he's just witnessed. It's already impressive when someone can simply understand and follow the flow of another's martial arts technique. Such perception alone would mark them as a genius. But Rayon didn't stop at merely observing. He absorbed and adapted the technique, crafting his own unique approach. This, Limer realizes, is a rare level of skill, one that suggests Rayon may be on a path to become the strongest fighter across the continent. It's precisely this caliber of talent and potential that the Zeegart family values and searches for in its members. With a proud smile, Limer steps forward and calls an end to the match, declaring that the winner is clear for all to see. He then raises his voice, officially announcing Rayon as the victor. Overjoyed, Sylvia and Helen rush over to embrace Rayon, their faces glowing with pride and happiness. As they reach him, Rayon grins widely and suggests they should all head home, mentioning with a laugh that he's starving. Meanwhile, Runan's parents celebrate with her, their faces lit up with pride and excitement, while Burin's father, Karun, remains stone-faced and cold, turning away from his son's defeat without a single word or sign of acknowledgement. Later that evening, Burin stands stiffly in his father Karun's office, feeling as Karun stands with his back to Burin, the silence stretching uncomfortably. Without turning around, Karun finally speaks, as he asks Burin if he remembers the expectations set for him. Burin timidly replies that he was told to become the top trainee and never allow himself to lose to anyone. Karun nods, as if confirming Burin's understanding, and then adds that he hadn't asked for much. All he had expected was for Burin to defeat Runan and secure the title of top trainee, simple tasks that he believed his son could achieve. But now, Karun's voice rises as he accuses Burin of losing to the son of a woman he considers an insect, who had even lost her direct lineage status. With a harsh glare, Karun demands to know if Burin's failure was a deliberate attempt to shame him, or if his son plans to follow the same path as his disowned brothers, outcasts who were no longer part of the family. Burin, now sweating under his father's harsh words, tries to hold his composure, but Karun is unmoved. He continues, pointing out that Burin has already missed his first chance, yet reminds him that another opportunity to become the top trainee will come at the graduation ceremony. He orders Burin to secure the top spot next time, then dismisses him without a second glance. Feeling dejected, Burin leaves the room, his father's words echoing painfully in his mind. Overwhelmed with anger and shame, he finds himself punching a wall, blaming Rayon for his current predicament. Burin wanders around, deeply puzzled by his loss. He wonders why he fell short despite all the effort he put in to keep up with everyone else. Eventually, he finds himself at the training room, stepping inside almost out of habit. As he enters, he realizes he's the only one there, likely because everyone is resting after the test. Grabbing a dumbbell, he begins to work out, but his gaze soon shifts to the student lockers, and Rayon's locker in particular catches his eye. Driven by curiosity, he decides to take a quick look inside. When he opens Rayon's locker, Burin is stunned. He finds it filled with worn-out shoes, at least 10 pairs, all well-used and showing heavy signs of wear. He realizes with shock that Rayon had gone through all those shoes in just 6 months, while he himself had only had to replace his shoes twice in that time. The sight hits him hard, making him see Rayon's dedication in a new light. Burin starts recalling how Rayon was constantly training, never taking a break, even when Burin was trying to look impressive by practicing flashy sword swings instead of focusing on foundational training. He remembers all the times he was relaxing in the dormitories while Rayon was hard at work. It becomes clear to Burin that Rayon was following the true path of Sieghart while he had strayed from it, choosing shortcuts over real discipline. He stares at the dumbbell in his hand, reflecting on his own approach to training. Then, with a newfound sense of respect, he carefully places Rayon's shoes back in the locker. Leaving the training room, Burin walks out with a determined look on his face. As Rain checks his system in his room, Wrath, visibly annoyed, starts venting. He mentions that he's lived for hundreds of years, yet he's never met anyone quite like Rayon. Curious, Wrath asks Rayon what he really is. Rayon simply shrugs and replies that he doesn't know either, so Wrath is free to imagine whatever he wants. Rayon, however, is more interested in the skill he earned from Wrath by winning their bet. He asks Wrath about it, and Wrath explains that it's called Legendary Senses. He describes it as a remarkable ability, but insists it's too good for someone like Rayon. Wrath goes on to explain that this skill will enhance the range of Rayon's senses. Since it's currently only at 1 star, Rayon's sensory range will increase by around 10% for now. Rayon acknowledges that it sounds useful, but is puzzled about why it's called Legendary Senses. Wrath admits he just made up the name and asks if it doesn't sound cool. As Rayon leaves the room, he replies that Wrath just has bad taste. The following morning, a man arrives with a message for Rayon and Sylvia. He informs them that the patriarch, Glenn, has summoned Rayon. Sylvia becomes anxious and asks if something is wrong with Rayon, but the man, who happens to be Glenn's assistant, reassures her that there's nothing to worry about. He explains that Glenn simply wants to personally give Rayon the bronze plaque. When Rayon arrives to meet Glenn, the patriarch tells his assistant, somewhat reluctantly, that he will honor his promise. The assistant agrees and hands the bronze plaque to Rayon. Rayon accepts it, and Glenn explains that if he ever returns the plaque, he can request an item of equivalent value in exchange. Rayon then says he'd like to make a request and calls out his mother's full name, Sylvia Sieghart. He asks Glenn what he needs to do for her to regain her position. Glenn and his assistant both sigh in relief. Glenn clarifies that he assumes Rayon is referring to Sylvia's direct lineage title, and Rayon confirms this, though he can't help but notice that Glenn's energy seems to have softened significantly. Glenn begins explaining that while it's theoretically possible for Rayon to achieve such accomplishments, gaining the recognition of others is not as straightforward as it sounds. He compares it to trying to reach up and pluck the moon from the night sky, an almost impossible feat. Rayon, however, smiles confidently and replies that while it may be difficult, it's still within reach. He then sets the plaque down respectfully and thanks Glenn for answering his question. Just as Rayon begins to turn away to leave, Glenn stops him, pointing out that Rayon hasn't asked for any kind of reward. He merely posed a question, something Glenn could have answered even without the plaque. This catches Rayon off guard. He hadn't expected the Northern King of Annihilation, known for his intimidating presence, to offer such generosity. Glenn encourages him to make a wish, saying he should feel free to state what he truly desires. Rayon hesitates, but then he recalls something important he has been considering, something that he knows will help him reach his goals. Glenn seems surprised, remarking that the instructors would provide him with the necessary techniques during his basic training. Rayon, however, clarifies that he isn't looking for a standard training method. He wants a superior aura training technique, one that's beyond the usual curriculum. He boldly requests that Glenn teach him a technique worthy of the bronze plaque's value. Rayon reflects that the shadow training technique he used in his past life is insufficient for his current ambitions. He is driven by a deep need for power, power that will allow him to restore Sylvia's lineage title, reclaim her honor, and ultimately take down Deruf, the nemesis who tormented him in his previous life. For all of this, he knows he requires a stronger, more refined aura. Glenn snaps his fingers, and a hidden door opens, revealing shelves filled with numerous books. The shelves surround Rayon, and Glenn explains that these are some of Sieghart's treasured books. He tells Rayon that if he places his hand in the center, the book most suited to his needs will come forth. Rayon places his hand on the central platform, thinking that he just needs something stronger than his old shadow training technique, and he hopes for a technique that will genuinely make him stronger. Suddenly, an old book begins to levitate and flies directly toward him. Glenn and his assistant watch in surprise, their eyes wide as the book floats closer. The book opens on its own, presenting its pages to Rayon, who realizes with amazement that this is the legendary Thousand Flames technique. Rayon stares at the book, intrigued and wondering what kind of training method this might be. He attempts to turn another page, hoping to learn more, but the book suddenly takes on a life of its own. The pages flip open rapidly, filling the air around Rayon, then begin to glow, wrapping him in a ring of flames. Glenn watches Rayon with a thoughtful, almost distant expression, as memories from the past flood his mind. He recalls one of his loyal men bringing him troubling news that Sylvia was being ostracized by the family. Glenn, focused solely on Sieghart's strength and unity, had dismissed it, saying it was none of his concern. His priority was the family's growth and power above all else. Another time, the same man reported that Sylvia had left the family because of a man she loved. Glenn had brushed off this report as well, calling it trivial and ordering his man to stop wasting his time with unimportant matters. Back then, Glenn was convinced that emotions were useless distractions, obstacles in the path to achieving true martial greatness. His heart had been hardened by his singular focus on the family's power. a path that led him to transcendent martial prowess but came with a high cost, a cost he only fully understood later. A grim memory surfaces, the day that same man informed him that Sylvia's husband and daughter had been ambushed. The attack was orchestrated by a group called Eden, who had recognized Sylvia. The man reported that only Sylvia had survived, miraculously, though she was pregnant at the time. Hearing this news, Glenn had felt a pang of emotion crack through his hardened soul, a feeling he had almost forgotten. But it was too late. No amount of regret could undo the past or bring back those lost to the attack. In that moment, Glenn had understood the price he paid for ignoring his family's suffering. Returning to the present, Glenn makes a silent vow to himself that even if Rayon and Sylvia resent him for his past decisions, he will protect them. He is determined to be there for them, no matter what they feel toward him, as a way to atone for his mistakes. Meanwhile, Rayon's attention is fully on the Thousand Flames technique book floating before him. He feels an intense rush of knowledge flowing into his mind, as if the book is directly transferring its contents to him. Sensing this, Glenn asks Rayon what he did. Rayon replies that he's not entirely sure, and he just remembers the content of the training technique. Glenn then asks Rayon for the book's name, and Rayon replies that it's called the Thousand Flames technique. At that moment, Rayon's system notifies him that the technique is being saved into his memory.